The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages. Translators worked overtime as delegates from 40 different species gathered for an emergency session. Rita Hayes adjusted her collar and tried not to feel overwhelmed by the sheer variety of life forms surrounding her. Some floated, some crawled, and a few existed as clouds of luminescent gas contained in specialized suits. She had not expected this level of attention. The Dorvani asteroid crisis had been resolved 3 weeks ago, and Rita assumed the gratitude would come in the form of a simple acknowledgement. Instead, she found herself at the center of what appeared to be the most well-attended council meeting in a generation. Council Speaker Dravith rose from his seat, his crystalline body refracting the chamber lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. His 4 arms gestured for silence, and the room gradually quieted. "We gather today to honor an unprecedented achievement," Dravith announced, his voice resonating through the translation devices. The human delegation successfully diverted the Dorvani asteroid, saving 17 billion lives. This feat was calculated by our best scientists to be impossible with current galactic technology. Applause erupted, though it sounded strange coming from beings with different concepts of celebration. Some clicked mandibles, others hummed in harmonic frequencies, and a few simply flashed bioluminescent patterns. Rita stood and nodded respectfully. "The Dorvani people deserve a chance. We simply did what anyone would do." A Serpentine delegate from the Solarian cluster raised her head. "Ambassador Hayes, our own engineers studied the asteroid's trajectory. The mass, velocity, and composition made deflection mathematically improbable. How did your species accomplish this?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka, sitting beside Rita, leaned forward. "We used a combination of gravitational tractors and precision mining charges. Nothing revolutionary, just careful calculations and coordinated effort. But the power requirements," another delegate interjected, "a being that resembled a walking tree. Our estimates suggest you would have needed to overload your ship reactors to generate sufficient force." Rita glanced at Yuki, who shrugged slightly. "We did push our equipment pretty hard," Rita admitted. "But everything stayed within operational parameters." Parameters? The question came from Admiral Brent Foster's hologram. He had joined the session remotely from the human naval station. "Rita, they're asking about technical specifications. Maybe Yuki should handle this part." Yuki nodded and pulled up a holographic display. "Our vessels operated at their standard capacity throughout the mission. We maintained all safety protocols and never exceeded rated limits." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Dorvani delegate, a tall being with compound eyes, stood slowly. "You maintained safety protocols during an extinction-level emergency?" "Of course," Rita said, genuinely confused by the question. "Why would we abandon safety procedures? That's when they matter most." Dravith's crystalline face somehow managed to convey surprise. "Ambassador Hayes, please clarify. When you say operational capacity and safety protocols, what exactly do you mean?" Rita looked around the chamber, suddenly aware that she had stumbled into something significant. "Well, standard procedure. Our ships, equipment, and reactors are all rated for continuous operation at 40% of their maximum theoretical output. That's the safe zone. Going higher risks system failures or accidents." The chamber fell absolutely silent. Even the translator devices seemed to pause. A small, furry delegate from the Kelvin Collective spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. "Did you say 40%? "Yes," Yuki confirmed, bringing up more technical data. "It's basic engineering. You design systems with substantial overhead. Our reactors can theoretically produce much more power, but running them at lower capacity ensures longevity, safety, and leaves room for emergency situations." "Room for emergency situations," repeated the tree-like delegate slowly. "You saved our sister world while operating at less than half your capacity." Rita suddenly understood why the room had gone quiet. "It's not like we were holding back. 40% is our normal operating standard. It's how we do things." Admiral Foster's hologram flickered as he leaned closer to his camera. "Rita, I think you need to be very clear here. They're not understanding our engineering philosophy. Dravith raised one of his forearms. Ambassador Hayes, are you stating that human technology used in the Dorvani rescue was deliberately limited to a fraction of its potential? Not limited, Rita corrected. Optimized. Running systems at 40% capacity means they last longer, require less maintenance, and we have a 60% reserve for emergencies or unexpected situations. It's just responsible design. The Solarian delegates' scales rippled with color changes that the translator interpreted as shock. 60% reserve. For every human vessel we've encountered, for every station you've built, for every tool you've demonstrated, you've been operating at 40%. Give or take, Yuki said cheerfully, not reading the room. Some systems run at 35%, others at 45%, depending on the application. But yes, roughly 40% is our standard operational baseline. A delegate Rita didn't recognize stood abruptly. This explains the energy signatures we've detected from human space. We assumed you were simply inefficient with power distribution. You've been operating with massive reserves this entire time. This changes everything. Another voice called out. Dravith raised multiple arms for silence. Please, let us not jump to conclusions. Ambassador Hayes, this revelation requires further discussion. I believe we need to understand the full implications of what you shared today. Rita looked at Yuki, then at Admiral Foster's concern hologram. She had come here expecting to receive a medal or certificate of appreciation. Instead, she had apparently revealed something that shocked the entire Galactic Council. Of course, Rita said carefully, we're happy to answer any questions about human engineering standards. Excellent, Dravith said, but his tone suggested anything but relief. I hereby call for a closed session of the Security Council. We have much to discuss about humanity's capabilities. As the chamber began to clear, Rita caught Admiral Foster's expression through the flickering hologram. He looked worried. She was beginning to understand why. The galaxy had just learned that everything humans had accomplished so far was done with the safety brake firmly engaged. News traveled fast in the galactic network. Within hours of the council session, every major news outlet across civilized space carried the same headline with slight variations. The core message remained identical. Humans have been holding back. Rita found herself confined to the human embassy compound while the galaxy processed her accidental revelation. Security Chief Graff, a hulking warrior from the Borvith species, had personally insisted on the protective detail. His species valued strength above all else, and apparently, they now viewed humans very differently. You don't understand, Graff rumbled as he paced outside Rita's office. My people have fought wars over perceived threats. If humans can do what you claim at full capacity, some species will panic. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat across from Rita, scrolling through scientific journals and message boards. The academic community is going crazy. Everyone wants technical specifications. 3 universities have already offered to pay for access to our engineering databases. Pay. Rita rubbed her temples. We've always shared our technology openly. That was before they knew you were sandbagging, Admiral Foster said through the communication screen. He looked exhausted. Rita, I've got military intelligence reports coming in from every sector. Some species are calculating what human warships could do at full capacity. The numbers are scaring people. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dravith materialized in the doorway, his crystalline body catching the afternoon light. Ambassador Hayes, may I enter? Rita gestured to a reinforced chair designed for heavier species. Please, I assume this isn't a social call. Hardly. Dravith settled himself carefully. The closed session lasted 6 hours. I've never seen such division in the council. Some delegates believe humanity represents an existential threat. Others see opportunity for advancement. A few ancient species are simply fascinated. We're not a threat, Rita said firmly. We saved the Dorvani because it was the right thing to do. At 40% capacity, Dravith reminded her. Do you understand what that means to species who operate their technology at or near maximum output? We've built our entire civilization on the principle of using every available resource efficiently. You've shown us that approach might be fundamentally flawed. Yuki looked up from her tablet. Efficiency isn't just about maximum output. Our approach prioritizes longevity and adaptability. A system running at 40% today can run at 60% tomorrow if needed. Your approach leaves no room for growth or emergency response, which terrifies them, Dravith said bluntly, because it means you have room to grow, and we don't. A priority message flashed on Admiral Foster's screen. His expression hardened. We have a situation. A human cargo vessel, the Prairie Wind, has been seized by Krellian separatists. They're broadcasting demands across multiple systems. Rita felt her stomach drop. What do they want? Foster pulled up the transmission. A Krellian commander appeared on screen, his facial tendrils quivering with emotion. We have taken the human vessel and its crew of 12. We do not believe the claims made by Ambassador Hayes. We demand humanity demonstrate their true capabilities. Show us what you can do at full capacity, or these humans will pay the price for your deception. Deception. Rita stood bravely. We never deceived anyone. We simply never discussed our engineering safety margins because no one asked. They don't see it that way, Grath observed. The Krellians are an honor-bound culture. They feel you've been dishonest by not revealing your full strength. Dravith's crystalline face reflected concern. This is worse than a simple hostage situation. If humanity demonstrates military force, even to rescue your people, it will confirm every fear the militant species have. But if you do nothing, you appear weak, which invites more aggression. Rita looked at Yuki, then at Admiral Foster. We need a third option, something that proves our capability without violence. What did you have in mind? Foster asked. A demonstration, Yuki said suddenly. Not military, scientific, industrial. Something that shows what we can do without threatening anyone. Rita's mind raced through possibilities. How long would it take to terraform a lifeless moon? Yuki blinked. At standard capacity? With proper equipment? Maybe 8 months for basic atmosphere and water cycle. And at 75% capacity, 30 days, Yuki said slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Maybe less. But Rita, that would require revealing more about our capabilities. They already know, Rita countered. The secret is out. But we can show them what human capability looks like when directed at creation rather than destruction. Dravith considered this. A terraforming demonstration would attract galactic attention. If you succeed, it proves your claims. If you fail, it shows human limitations. Either way, it resolves the current uncertainty. And hostages? Grath asked. Admiral Foster leaned back in his chair. If we announce a public demonstration of human capacity, the Krellians will have to release them or look like fools. They want proof of our abilities. We'll give it to them on our terms. Rita pulled up a star chart. There's a dead moon in the Helix sector. No atmosphere, no water, no life. It's been sitting there and used for centuries. We terraform it in 30 days with observers from every species watching. We show them what 40% looks like, then what 75% can accomplish. Risky, Dravith said. If you fail, humanity loses credibility across the galaxy. And if we don't try, Rita replied, 12 innocent people die, and the galaxy descends into fear and paranoia about human intentions. I'd rather take the risk. Yuki was already running calculations. We'll need the heavy construction fleet from Titan Station, the atmospheric processors from Europa, probably the water harvesters from the Kuiper facilities too. How fast can we mobilize? Rita asked Admiral Foster. 72 hours to get everything in position, he said. Rita, are you sure about this? No, Rita admitted. But I'm sure about what happens if we do nothing. Send out the invitations, Dravith. Tell the galaxy humanity is about to show them what we can really do. Dravith rose slowly. I'll convey your proposal to the council. I suspect you'll have an audience. As he left, Rita looked at the star chart showing the lifeless moon. In 30 days, it would either be a garden world or humanity's greatest failure broadcasted across the galaxy, She preferred not to think about which outcome seemed more likely. The dead moon hung in space like a gray marble, lifeless and cold. Sensor readings showed exactly what the geological surveys had indicated. No atmosphere, no water, surface temperature fluctuating between extreme heat and freezing cold. It was perfect for their purposes precisely because it was so thoroughly inhospitable. Rita watched from the observation deck of the human command vessel Endeavour as ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Observer vessels from 40 different species maintained careful distances from each other and from the human fleet. Some came out of scientific curiosity. Others came to verify humanity's claims. A few came hoping to see humans fail. Quite a crowd, Yuki remarked, checking her datapad. The Krellians released the Prairie Wind crew 6 hours after we announced the demonstration. They're calling it a gesture of good faith, but really they just wanted to save face. I'm more concerned about what happens if we don't deliver, Rita said. Below them, the human construction fleet moved into position. Massive vessels that normally operated on slow, patient schedules now coordinated with military precision. Dr. Yuki's team had spent 72 hours straight recalculating every parameter, adjusting protocols to run at 75% capacity instead of the standard 40 that Admiral Foster appeared on the communication screen. All vessels report ready. Equipment checks complete. We're good to begin on your order, Ambassador. Rita took a deep breath. Begin terraforming operations. The transformation started subtly. Asteroid mining vessels approached the moon, their equipment operating at levels that made human engineers nervous. They began extracting raw materials from the moon's crust, processing them at speeds that should have generated dangerous heat levels. The cooling systems, also running at 75%, managed to keep everything stable. Phase 1 proceeding normally, Yuki reported. Mineral extraction ahead of schedule. We're pulling up iron, silicon, carbon, everything we need for atmosphere generation. On the observer vessels, alien scientists recorded every detail. Rita could see their ship's sensors working overtime, analyzing energy outputs and comparing them to previous human operations that a message came through from the Solarian science vessel. Ambassador Hayes, our readings show power levels 3 times higher than your species has previously demonstrated. Yet your equipment appears stable. That's the difference between 40 and 75%, Rita replied calmly. We're still not at maximum capacity. We're just operating above our normal safety margins. The mining phase completed in 6 hours instead of the projected 2 days. Raw materials floated in orbit around the moon, sorted and ready for processing. The atmospheric generators moved into position next. Enormous machines that would break down minerals and release gases in carefully calculated ratios. Beginning atmosphere generation, Yuki announced. This was where things got interesting. The generators began pumping gases into the moon's thin gravity well. Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, trace elements. The process normally took weeks. Running at higher capacity, they aimed to complete it in 4 days. On the second day, something unexpected happened. Commander Hayes, a technician, called out urgently. We're detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration. Rita felt her heart rate increase. Admiral Foster, are we seeing this? Confirmed, Foster replied, his tactical display lighting up. 6 vessels. Design pattern doesn't match any known species. They're not responding to hails. The unknown ships moved closer, their approach vector bringing them toward the moon. Observer vessels scattered, creating distance between themselves and the potential threat. Only the human fleet held position. Should we abort the operation? Yuki asked quietly. Rita watched the unknown vessels. They weren't moving aggressively. Their approach seemed almost curious. Maintain operations. Admiral, defensive posture only. Let's see what they want. The lead unknown vessel finally responded to communication attempts. The being that appeared on screen was unlike anything in the galactic database. Its form seemed to shift between states, solid and energy, physical and ethereal. We are the Void-born, The being said in a voice that bypassed translation devices entirely, speaking directly to their minds. We have not walked among the younger species for 10,000 years. We left because the galaxy had become stagnant. No growth, no risk, no progress. Dravitha's voice came through on a secure channel. Rita, the Voidborn are legend. They were the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel. They supposedly abandoned physical space millennia ago. The Voidborn continued. We detected unusual energy patterns 3 weeks ago. The Dorvani rescue. Then your announcement. Now, this demonstration. You are the first species in 100 centuries to operate on principles we recognize. What principles? Rita asked. Growth. Potential. The understanding that true capability means holding power in reserve, not exhausting it constantly. The Voidborn's form solidified slightly. The galaxy has forgotten this wisdom. Species build to maximum capacity, operate at full power, leave nothing for tomorrow. You remember what we once taught. Yuki leaned closer to Rita. Are they saying humans independently developed a philosophy that matches their ancient civilization? Apparently, Rita whispered back. The Voidborn vessel moved closer to the moon, observing the terraforming in progress. Your 40% doctrine. It is not cowardice or inefficiency. It is wisdom. Build for today, reserve for tomorrow, adapt for the future. Admiral Foster cleared his throat. With respect, we developed these principles out of practical necessity. We didn't know anyone else used to think this way, which makes it more significant, the Voidborn replied. You discovered this truth independently. The galaxy forgot it. We left because there was no one worth teaching. Perhaps we were wrong to abandon hope. The atmosphere generation continued below. The moon's surface now showed a thin but growing envelope of breathable air. Water harvesting vessels began their work, cracking ice from captured comets and distributing it across the surface. Why reveal yourselves now? Dravith asked, having joined the open channel. Because humanity has reminded the galaxy of something essential, the Voidborn said. Power without wisdom is merely noise. Capacity without purpose is waste. You operate at 40% not because you are weak, but because you understand strength. Rita felt the weight of thousands of years of galactic history pressing down on this moment. What happens now? Now, the Voidborn said, we observe. If humanity continues on this path, if the galaxy learns from your example, perhaps it is time for us to return. The Voidborn vessels held position, watching as humans transformed a dead rock into the beginnings of a living world, all while operating well below their maximum capacity, proving that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use all your power. Day 14 of the terraforming project brought unexpected challenges. The moon now possessed a breathable atmosphere and liquid water pooling in the lower elevations. Bacterial cultures introduced on day 10 were beginning to process minerals and prepare the soil for more complex life. Everything proceeded according to the revised 75% schedule. Then the equipment started failing. Heat exchanger 3 is offline, a technician reported from the surface base. Backup systems engaged, but we're losing efficiency. Yuki studied the readouts with a frown. We're pushing these systems harder than they were designed for. Even with the safety margins, 75% sustained operation is causing stress. Rita looked out at the observer vessels still maintaining their vigil. The Voidborn had remained in system, watching silently. Can we complete the project? Yes, Yuki said carefully. But we need to make a choice. We can slow down, return to 50% operation, and finish in 40 days instead of 30. Or we can continue at 75% and risk more equipment failures. What would you recommend? Yuki pulled up a holographic display showing system stress levels across the fleet. Honestly, I'd recommend we demonstrate the other side of the 40% doctrine. Show them we know when to pull back. Admiral Foster joined the conversation. I disagree. We promised 30 days. If we slow down now, it looks like we can't deliver. Or it looks like we're smart enough to adjust plans when circumstances change, Rita countered. She activated the general communication channel. This is Ambassador Hayes to all observer vessels. We're making a course correction. The announcement drew immediate attention. Every ship's sensors focused on a human fleet. We've completed half the terraforming process in 14 days, Rita continued. However, sustained operation at 75% is causing equipment stress. Rather than risk failure, we're reducing output to 55%. This extends our timeline to 35 days total, but ensures project completion with all safety systems intact. Silence filled the channel. Then Dravith spoke. Ambassador, you're admitting difficulty? I'm admitting reality, Rita replied. The 40% doctrine isn't about unlimited power. It's about sustainable operation and knowing your limits. We pushed hard to make a point. Now we're adjusting to ensure success. The Voidborn vessel moved closer. Interesting choice, Ambassador Hayes. Practical choice, Rita corrected. We proved we can operate at 75%. Now we're proving we know when not to. Yuki began implementing the reduction protocols. Equipment across the fleet scaled back, heat signatures dropped, and stress levels decreased. The pace of terraforming slowed, but remained impressive by galactic standards. The Solarian science vessel is requesting a meeting, a communications officer reported. Rita accepted. The Serpentine scientist appeared on screen, her scales showing colors that indicated deep thought. Ambassador, your decision to reduce capacity is being discussed across all observer vessels. Some see it as weakness. Others see it as wisdom. What do you see? Rita asked. I see a species that understands the difference between capability and judgment. You could continue at 75%. You might even succeed, but you chose long-term success over short-term pride. The Solarian scales rippled with approval colors. My people have much to learn from this. Over the next week, something remarkable happened. 3 observer species requested permission to assist with the terraforming. Not to take over or show superior technology, but to learn by doing. The Dorvani sent engineers who had studied the asteroid deflection. We want to understand how to build in safety margins, their leader explained. Our entire infrastructure operates at maximum efficiency. One failure cascades into catastrophe. The Kelvin Collective contributed biological specimens adapted for rapid ecosystem establishment. We've always been conservative with our terraforming, they admitted, completing projects in centuries rather than years. Perhaps there's a middle path. Even the Borvith, the warrior species that valued strength above all, sent observers to work alongside human crews. Security Chief Grath himself joined the surface team. I don't understand your people, he told Rita during a scheduled inspection. You possess power, but choose restraint. You prove capability, then scale back. This is not how warriors think. Maybe that's why we're not always at war, Rita suggested gently. Grath's expression shifted, something that might have been a smile on his species. Perhaps. My people respect strength. We assumed strength meant using maximum power. You're teaching us that strength includes knowing when to hold back. On day 28, the moon hosted its first rainstorm. Water cycled naturally through the young atmosphere. Clouds formed and released precipitation. Grass-like plants, genetically engineered for rapid growth, covered 15% of the surface. The project would finish ahead of even the extended schedule. The Voidborn requested a private channel with Rita. You have impressed us, Ambassador Hayes. Not with your technology, which is crude compared to what we once commanded, but with your philosophy. I'm just an ambassador trying not to start a war, Rita said honestly. You're more than that. You represent a principle the galaxy forgot. We have decided to issue a challenge. Rita felt her stomach tighten. What kind of challenge? The galaxy's founders, the first spacefaring civilizations, faced a problem that destroyed them. Collaboration between radically different species. They had technology, power, and intelligence. They lacked wisdom to use them together. We offer humanity and any species willing to join a test. Solve this ancient problem, and we will share knowledge from our archives. What's the problem specifically? Create something that serves both individual needs and collective good. Technology that empowers single beings while strengthening the whole. Solve this, and prove the galaxy has finally learned what the founders could not. Rita looked at Yuki, who had joined the conversation. That's pretty vague. Intentionally so, the Voidborn replied. The founders failed because they sought single solutions. You must find your own path. Admiral Foster appeared concerned. This could take years, decades even. Then take them, the Voidborn said. We waited 10,000 years. We can wait longer. But know this, humanity has already begun teaching the galaxy. Whether you realize it or not, you're changing how species think about power, capacity, and wisdom. The communication ended, leaving Rita staring at the terraformed moon below. In 35 days, humans had created a living world while teaching dozens of species that strength and restraint weren't opposites. Now, they had to figure out how to turn that lesson into something lasting. The proposal came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka sat in her temporary office on the newly terraformed moon, surrounded by data from 40 different species' scientific communities. She had spent 3 weeks analyzing the Void-Born challenge, looking for patterns in how different civilizations approach problems. I think I've got something, she said during the morning briefing with Rita and Admiral Foster. Rita looked up from reports about the moon's ecosystem development. Small animals had been introduced successfully, and the food chains were establishing faster than predicted. Something about the challenge? Yes. The Voidborn asked us to create something that serves individual needs while strengthening the collective. Every species we've observed approaches this as an either-or proposition. Technology serves the individual or the group, never both simultaneously. And humans are different. Foster asked, not different, just less experienced. Yuki pulled up a holographic model. We're newer to the galactic stage. We haven't had centuries to develop rigid thinking. What if the answer isn't a technology at all? Rita leaned forward. Explain. What if it's a system? A framework? The Voidborn said the founders had technology and power, but lacked wisdom to use them together. What if the problem isn't what you build, but how you build it? Foster rubbed his chin thoughtfully. You're talking about the 40% doctrine scaled up. Exactly. Not as a human principle, but as a galactic standard. A shared approach to development that any species can adapt to their needs while contributing to collective progress. Rita felt a spark of understanding. An academy. No, bigger than that. An institute where species share their approaches to sustainable growth. But with built-in flexibility, Yuki added excitedly. Each species maintains their independence and culture. They don't adopt human methods wholesale. Instead, they learn the underlying principle. Build for today with room for tomorrow. Admiral Foster looked skeptical. The galaxy just learned humans have been holding back enormous power. Now I want to teach them how to hold back their own power. Some species will see that as a threat. Or as an opportunity, Rita countered. She activated the communication system. I need to speak with Council Speaker Dravith immediately. The crystalline being appeared within minutes, his 4 arms gesturing curiosity. Ambassador Hayes, your terraforming project concludes in 3 days. The moon is beautiful. What can I do for you? The Voidborn Challenge. I think we have an answer, but it requires galactic cooperation. Dravith's body seemed to brighten with interest. I'm listening. Rita explained Yuki's concept, watching Dravith's reactions carefully. When she finished, he remained silent for a long moment. You want to create an institution dedicated to teaching restraint, he said finally. In a galaxy where most species believe they've already maximized their potential. Not restraint, reserve, potential, growth. Rita pulled up images of the terraformed moon. Look at what we accomplished here. Not just humans. The Dorvani engineers learned new techniques. The Kelvin Collective contributed biology they had been hoarding. The Borvith warriors worked alongside scientists. Species that normally compete collaborated because they saw value in learning. And you want to formalize this? Yes. An institute where every species shares their strengths while learning to build in capacity for growth. The Voidborn said the founders failed at collaboration. Maybe they failed because they never created a space where collaboration was the foundation rather than the goal. Dravith rotated slowly, his crystalline structure catching light. This is either brilliant or naive. Possibly both. I'll present it to the Council. The next day brought surprises. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, but this time the atmosphere felt different. Species that had viewed humans with suspicion now asked questions about implementation. The Krellian separatists, who had seized the Prairie Wind, sent a formal apology and requested to join any collaborative project. The Krellians want to participate. Rita asked Dravith privately. They realize their honor culture has limited their growth. They operate everything at maximum capacity because they believe anything less is weakness. Your demonstration showed them a different definition of strength. The vote came faster than expected. 37 species endorsed the creation of the Galactic Innovation Institute. 2 abstained. Only 1 voted against, and even they admitted the concept had merit. The location is obvious, Dravith announced. The moon you've terraformed. It represents the principles you're teaching. Built quickly but sustainably. Created through collaboration. Designed with room for growth. Rita stood before the council, feeling the weight of what they'd accidentally created. We accept, but we need to be clear about something. This isn't a human institution that other species join. It's a galactic institution that humans participate in alongside everyone else. A delegate from the Kelvin Collective spoke up. Ambassador Hayes, your humility is noted. But humans brought this concept back to the galaxy. You should lead the initial phase. Co-lead, Rita corrected, with representatives from multiple species. The whole point is that no single approach is perfect. We learn from each other. The Voidborn vessel moved closer to the council station. You have answered our challenge faster than expected. Not with technology, but with wisdom. The founders built wonders, but each species built alone. They never learned to create together while maintaining individual identity. So we passed. Yuki asked nervously. You begun to pass. True success will be measured over generations. But you've taken the first step the founders never managed. You've chosen to learn together. The Voidborn's form shifted, becoming more solid. We will contribute to your institute. Knowledge from our archives, carefully chosen. Not to make you dependent on our technology, but to show you what's possible when wisdom guides power. Rita looked at the terraformed moon on the display screens. In 35 days, they'd created a living world. Now, they had the chance to create something more important. A framework for galactic cooperation built on the principle that true strength included knowing when to hold back. When do we start? Rita asked. You already have, Dravith replied. The moment you admitted humans were only using 40%, you started changing how the galaxy thinks about power. Now we formalize that change. Rita smiled. Then I suppose we have work to do. Admiral Foster chuckled. You came here to receive a medal. Instead, you started a galactic revolution. Accidentally, Rita protested. The best kind, Yuki added. The kind nobody planned, which means nobody built in limitations. They had room to grow. That was the whole point. 6 months after Rita's accidental revelation, the Galactic Innovation Institute opened its doors. The terraformed moon now hosted permanent facilities designed by 12 different species, each contributing their architectural expertise. The result looked chaotic to human eyes, but somehow worked perfectly. Rita walked through the main plaza, watching students and researchers from across the galaxy interact. A Borvith warrior debated engineering principles with a Kelvin mathematician. Dorvani biologists compared notes with human ecologists. Even the crystalline Dravith species had sent scholars to study collaborative development. It's bigger than I imagined, Yuki said, joining Rita near a fountain that used water recycling technology from 4 different civilizations. 2,000 students in the first cohort, Rita replied. 800 researchers. Delegates from 43 species, and we're already getting applications for the second year. Admiral Foster approached from the military liaison building. Since retiring from active service, he'd taken a position teaching strategic resource management. His classes filled immediately, with officers from a dozen species wanting to understand human military doctrine. The Krellians are impressive, he commented. They've redesigned their entire fleet based on the 40% principle. Instead of ships that operate at maximum capacity until they break, they're building vessels with substantial reserves. Their engineering core is calling it a revolution. Ritos Mumilv, Security Chief Grath, told me the Borvith are doing something similar. They're reconsidering their whole culture around sustainable strength rather than constant maximum effort. And the Voidborn? Yuki asked, keeping their distance but watching closely. Rita gestured toward the edge of the system where the ancient vessels maintain their silent vigil. They've shared 3 major technological advances so far. Not complete specifications, but enough to point us in the right direction. They're making us work for it. A young Solarian student approached, her scales showing nervous colors. Ambassador Hayes? I'm writing a thesis on the comparative analysis of safety margins across species. Could I interview you about human development philosophy? Of course, Rita said warmly. Though I should warn you, I'm not an engineer. Dr. Tanaka here would be better for technical questions. Actually, I need the diplomatic perspective, the student said. How do humans maintain the 40% doctrine across your entire civilization? Most species develop different standards in different regions. Yours seems universal. Rita considered the question. Honestly, trial and error. We had disasters, catastrophic failures, systems that pushed too hard. We learned that building in reserve capacity saved lives and resources long term. It became standard because the alternative proved too costly. So it wasn't wisdom, the student said. It was practical necessity. Wisdom usually starts that way, Yuki interjected. You do something because it works, then later you understand why it works, and eventually it becomes a principle. The student's scales rippled with understanding colors. That's helpful. Thank you. As the student left, Dravith materialized nearby. His crystalline body had become a familiar sight around the Institute. He'd taken a role as an advisor, helping bridge cultural differences between species. Ambassador Hayes, the Council has made a decision regarding the Institute's long-term funding. All member species have agreed to contribute resources proportional to their use of the facilities. Additionally, the Merchant Coalition has offered to sponsor scholarships for developing civilizations. That's generous, Rita said. It's self-interest, Dravith replied candidly. They've realized that species trained in sustainable development make better trading partners. Civilizations that build for long-term growth are more stable than those operating at maximum capacity. Rita looked around at the bustling campus. Did we really change the galaxy's thinking this much in 6 months? You provided an alternative framework, Dravith explained. The galaxy has operated on maximum efficiency principles for millennia. We believed we had reached our limits. You showed us we had confused limits with poor planning. A priority message arrived on Rita's personal device. The Voidborn requested a meeting in the Institute's main auditorium. Within an hour, representatives from every species on campus gathered in the massive space. The Voidborn representative materialized on stage, their form shifting between states. We have observed your progress with great interest. The Galactic Innovation Institute represents a concept the founders never achieved. Collaboration without homogenization. Shared learning without loss of identity. Individual growth that strengthens the collective. Silence filled the auditorium. We are prepared to rejoin galactic civilization, the Voidborn continued. Not as teachers or leaders, but as participants. We have knowledge to share, but we also have much to learn from what you've built here. Rita felt tears threatening. She'd spent 6 months working frantically to make the Institute succeed, often doubting whether it would last. Now the Voidborn themselves were endorsing it. There is one condition, the Voidborn said. This institute must never become rigid. The moment it becomes about following rules rather than exploring principles, it will fail. The founders created perfect systems that couldn't adapt. You must avoid their mistake. How do we ensure that? Someone called from the audience. By remembering why you're here, the Voidborn replied. You're not here because humans discovered some secret truth. You're here because humans accidentally revealed a principle everyone had forgotten. The galaxy trembled not because humans were powerful, but because humans showed that power without wisdom is meaningless. Ritostud. We accept your condition. The Institute will remain focused on principles, not rules. On understanding why things work, not just how they work. Then we will share our archives, the Voidborn said. Knowledge accumulated over 200,000 years. Not as instruction manual, but as reference guide. Learn from our successes and failures alike. The auditorium erupted in discussion. Species that had barely been speaking to each other 6 months ago now debated excitedly about research priorities and collaborative projects. Yuki leaned close to Rita. You do realize what we've done, right? We've fundamentally changed how the galaxy approaches development, resource management, and collaboration. We accidentally told them we were only using 40%, Rita replied. That's all. That was everything, Admiral Foster said. That revelation forced every species to reconsider their assumptions about power, capacity, and growth. Rita watched the crowd, seeing hope and excitement where 6 months ago there had been fear and suspicion. The galaxy had trembled when humans admitted they were only using 40% of their capacity. But they didn't tremble from fear anymore. They trembled from possibility. The Institute's motto, carved in 43 languages above the main entrance, summed it up perfectly. Build for today, reserve for tomorrow, grow forever. Rita had come to the Galactic Council to receive a medal for saving one planet. Instead, she'd accidentally started a revolution that would reshape galactic civilization for generations. Not bad for a diplomatic mistake.